the recording. Of course, I just got an alert on my phone pop up about lightning nearby, so I'm hoping then we won't. Oh my goodness. Hey, Christina.
Hi.
Thanks for joining.
Yes, hi everybody. Thanks so much for joining for the webinar.
We are set and ready to go.
This first slide looks great. I love the logo.
It is great. Kara described it perfectly. She said it reminded her of It's a Small World.
That's great.
Yeah.
And Anthony, you just would like me to be responding to questions on chat, right? So I won't actually be speaking.
Yeah, so if you've got any, see any in there that you want to, just go ahead and address in the chat. That'd be perfect.
Okay, perfect.
Cool. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and open up the broadcast. I'm going to do a general welcome, and then we're going to give it about a minute before we get started, but we are off and running, and good luck, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining our Welcoming Week kickoff webinar. We are excited to have you joining, and we're going to give it about a minute here. We had a really great response to this webinar and a number of registrants. So I'm going to just give it a little bit of an extra moment so people can join us and hopefully hear all the great information that's going to be shared from the get-go. So while we're waiting, take a moment and go to the chat and let us know where you're joining from, so we can kind of get a sense as to where everyone in the audience is from today. So super exciting. We already have over 100 people on this webinar, so very cool to see that. So lots of chats coming through, so tells me you all can hear me, so that's a good thing too. Wow, fast and furious movement, so super great. I'm seeing Texas, Nebraska, Georgia, Florida, Maine, Colorado, Washington State, Tennessee. Love the logo, thank you. Ottawa, welcome. Awesome. All right, well, thank you all so much. We're gonna go ahead and officially kick things off here. And as I said, just a big welcome to all of you and thank you for joining us today. I know we're all super excited about Welcoming Week, but there's also a lot of questions and concerns. It's a new year of a lot of different things and a lot of changes. So hopefully we're all going to be able to share some of that as a group today and learn from each other, and really look forward to all of you participating here. So today during our call, I'm being joined by a couple of my colleagues from Welcoming America, Tim Walden and Lola Pak, who are going to share a little bit about our website and the toolkit and all the resources that are available. So you'll hear from them here momentarily. And then we're super excited to be joined by a couple of our superstar members here, Fink, who is the Outreach and Partnership Manager with the Idaho Office for Refugees by Jannus, and Colin Triplett, who is the Resettlement Director of Migration and Refugee Services with Catholic Charities of Louisville. So we're really excited to hear from them as well. Just to give you an idea of what to expect here today, we're going to start off here shortly with a couple of quick poll questions because we just want to gauge the audience and where things are with you. We're going to talk a little bit about what Welcoming Week is. So hopefully for those of you that this might be your first Welcoming Week, we can give you a little bit of insight there. We're going to share a little bit about our theme for this year, which is a new feature. Then we're going to move into talking a little bit about what we're here for and hosting the events, and especially right now during COVID. Then again, our communications team is going to share some updates and information regarding the website and everything available there. And then we're going to hear from Colin and Kara and their experience with their events and pivoting from in-person to virtual. And then we're going to open it up and see what questions all of you might have as well. So as we're going through this, I encourage you to enter your questions in the chat. But also, if you have ideas, if you have experiences, enter those as well, so we can kind of keep an eye on that. I know a lot of people are, have already asked, what can we do? What are some ideas that people have had? So this is a great opportunity to kind of share and come together with all of those great ideas. So as I said, I want to start with a quick poll question as I move here. So I'm going to start the first one. And hopefully you all see that. So the first question here is, if you'll take a moment and respond to, is how many years have you either hosted or participated in Welcoming Week events? So you see there, this might be your first year. You've done these for about 1 to 3 years, 3 to 5, or 5+ years. So appreciate everyone responding to that. We're getting some good numbers here. Looks to be somewhat even. I'm gonna give it about 10 more seconds here, so quickly get your response in. And then I'm gonna go ahead and close the poll. All right, about 3 seconds left here. And we will close. So looks like we are, yeah, pretty evenly split as far as individuals that have hosted about 1 to 3 years, or this is new. So to those of you that this is your first year, we're super excited. That's amazing. And excited to work with you on that. All right, so now we're gonna move into our second poll question, which is, in the face of COVID this year, how are you feeling about hosting your events this year? So are you excited? You've already got events planned, you've got things going. Are you excited but a little unsure of how to proceed because of COVID? If you're just in general unsure if you're even going to be able to host events, are you completely stressed at the thought of hosting? Or are you at the point where you just, I don't have the bandwidth, my organization probably just can't do it this year? So let's find out where that stands, and I think hopefully today's webinar can kind of help out with that. So going to give it about 5 more seconds here. All right, and super great response. So thank you all so much for doing that. This is going to be a big help for everyone. We're going to close the poll here. And so, yeah, so about 55% of you are saying that you're excited but unsure, which is completely valid. And I would almost say that, the majority of us are in that as well, because there is so much unknown this year. And this is why we're here today. So hopefully we can all work through that together and figure out what to do. So thank you all so much for taking the time to do that. And again, as we move forward, we start going through this, enter your questions, enter your ideas, and whatever your thoughts are, use that chat feature. So first thing, what is Welcoming Week? So again, excited that a good number of you, this is going to be your first experience with this. And Welcoming Week for us, it's been going on now for nearly 10 years. And it's really a big part of Welcoming America's schedule of events. We do a number of things throughout the year, but this is one of our big ones. And I know a lot of members that love this, they look forward to it. And it's kind of a highlight of the year. And it's really grown a lot in number of events. And not only in that realm, but it's also become a real global effort with events that are being hosted in the US, but also in countries outside of the US that are both in our network, but also just in the general Welcoming network as well. And some of the countries that have joined us in events have been Slovenia, Canada, and New Zealand. And we're super excited to have them. And I think that's going to be even bigger this year and in years going forward. 2019 saw probably our biggest year of Welcoming Week events. We had, as a whole, close to 3,000 events that were held, which is very exciting to think about that many events happening in a week. all across the globe. So if you just kind of take a moment and think about, being a part of something that big, it's pretty amazing. For those of you that have done these in the past, you know how creative event hosts can be. And we often say there's no limit to the things you can do during Welcoming Week. So some of the events in the past have been things from as simple as a community meal to festivals and gatherings, art shows, film festivals, you name it. And it's been a really, great way to see communities come together. This year, we know it's happening. The dates for this year are September 12th through the 20th. And we know that this year especially, there's a lot of stressors. It's a time for us this year, all of us, when the political rhetoric is just really deepened, unfortunately, the divisions within the country and globally. And then add the pandemic on top of that. And that's really kind of added to a lot of the anti-immigrant sentiment as well. So this year, Welcoming Week really kind of helps us remember that it's important for us to really push and double down, if you will, on our inclusion vision, and to really find the ways that we can bring people together and bridge those differences and come to a great understanding and mutual support of one another. So that's kind of what we're really hoping for this year with Welcoming Week. This year, in addition to just in general Welcoming Week, we have added a theme to this year, and our communications team worked very closely with our team, our staff as a whole, to come up with, what do we want that to be? And you may have already seen this on our website and announced in different communications, but our theme for this year is creating home together. And if you've not seen on the website, there is a section where it kind of provides this explanation as to what that theme means for us. And you can kind of read through this at your convenience and your leisure here, or go to the website. But it really spoke to us to do this because, again, home is so different for us this year. We are all in our homes, or most of us are in our homes with families, with pets, with friends, but we're also away from a lot of our home, which are our families that are in different areas that we are able to meet with. And so we're doing that in different ways now. We're doing it virtually. We're doing it over the phones, different ways. So already the creativity is there, and we are truly creating home in different ways. And so our goal with this week, this Welcoming Week, is to continue to create that home and allow everyone to make sure that they feel like they belong and that they are part of something that is going to take us into the future. So we're excited to have you all be a part of that. Our communications team also, in a moment when they share, will go a little bit more into how you can weave the theme into some of your events. And we'll do some sharing of examples as well to where you can do that. But we're going to move now into talking a little bit about, again, why we're here and hosting these events, especially with that kind of cloud of COVID hanging over us. The first thing I want to talk about is hosting the in-person events. And again, we know this is a very different year. In-person events are kind of the heart and soul of, of Welcoming Week. And this is where you get to connect with individuals and see them face to face and be close to them. Well, this year that's different. And so we're in the process of adjusting to a lot of new normals that we are all going through, and Welcoming Week is no exception to that. And so as part of that, we want to kind of hopefully provide some guidelines today and through our website and the tools and resources that we are providing to help you with that. In-person events, again, probably the most important thing is safety first, safety first, safety first. You really want to make sure that you're following guidelines and making sure that everyone feels safe at that. The health of not only your staff and your volunteers, but your participants. We want to make sure everyone feels that they are in a safe place. The toolkit, again, on the website does provide a lot of great insights into some questions to ask specifically of your venues if you're considering a certain location. Some some questions to bring up to them and, kind of make sure that it is meeting the criteria. Other ideas are things like, thinking about your attendance and what you anticipate as far as attendance. Does the event space accommodate your anticipated attendance, and you can still consider social distancing? We had an example shared with us not long ago of a community that did a mural at a outdoor shared space. And again, to accommodate for social distancing, what they did was they set up a registration where people had to complete that in advance, so they could know, I can go to the mural at this time and be there for this amount of time. And they had it then socially distanced to where, people were contributing, they could paint on the mural, but it was within a safe space. So just some of the different things to consider with that as far as attendance and, making sure that people are socially distanced. As I said, the toolkit does have this information there. It's specifically in a section that's titled Tips for Hosting In-Person and Virtual Events During a Pandemic. Some of the items in there are downloadable, but there's also a lot of resource links that you can go to, specifically the CDC guidelines, which is quite detailed. There's a lot of information in there, but to highlight, it's got information about should you do any kind of concessions, so food and beverage considerations, face coverings, and then training your staff and volunteers in advance and some of the different things that you want to do there. As well as supplies, things you want to make sure that you've got on hand, whether that be you providing or your venue kind of working with you to make sure that you have there. And then in addition to the CDC guidelines, you're strongly encouraged to, stay up to date on your state and local guidelines, especially as you get closer to the event date that you're going to be hosting. Things are changing constantly, and, requirements are shifting almost on a daily basis. So stay on top of that. Along with that, be prepared to kind of respond if, there is some sort of a total lockdown again, and that may cause you to either delay your event or consider moving to virtual or something else. So definitely have some sort of a plan B ready just in case. But again, in-person events, safety first, make sure that you and everyone feels 100% comfortable hosting that if you do move forward with an in-person event. The other side of it is hosting virtual events. So, very similar to what we're doing here today, just one way that we can do this. It's probably the safest way, obviously, to do this for everyone, but virtual events also take a lot of planning. There's a lot of work that goes in well in advance of a virtual event. So you want to really make sure that you are ready for that. And again, this toolkit does specify a lot of resources and links and ideas to planning your virtual event. A lot of kind of checklists, step-by-step guidelines that you can take into consideration as you're going forward with that planning. Some of the important things that I know that probably Colin and Kara can speak to in a little while, and I've done in some of the events that I've put together is, take the time to research your platforms, find out, what they offer, and especially in regards to the type of event that you're planning that's going to be virtual. Are the things that you want to do on there, are they supported in that platform, and will it be possible? The other thing, of course, is cost. Some platforms, there is a cost associated with using them. Some like Zoom that we're using here today, there are different levels. So you can use maybe the free version. And if you do something like that, whether it be with Zoom or something else, make sure to find out what capabilities are available at those levels. Again, so you can kind of tailor that to your event. And again, make sure that it fits with what you're wanting to do there. And then the other thing to really think about too is, again, because there's so much work with this, as well as with in-person events, do you have the bandwidth to do this? Is your staff ready? Are you ready? Is your organization ready? And that's an important question to ask, because we don't want everyone to feel like, this is something that is a high pressure type of situation there. One of the questions that was asked quite often on the registration page before today's event was, you know, what are some examples of types of things that could be virtual? So just wanted to give you some ideas on this. And as I do this, what I'm going to ask you all to do is go to the chat and share any ideas that you have that either you've done as a virtual event or that you're planning as part of your events for Welcoming Week. So we're going to kind of keep an eye on this and hopefully share some of those ideas as we go through this as well. But very simply to start with, you know, some of the different things that you can do, again, something very similar to what we're doing here on Zoom. You can plan some sort of discussions, maybe some sort of a specific topic related to welcoming, inclusion, you know, a discussion with a specific individual, maybe doing some storytelling, book clubs, book discussions. Maybe you've got an author, local author that has done something and they want to come and present to your community. That's something that can be done very easily through something like Zoom that we're doing here. Another idea for you is some sort of a virtual museum or gallery exhibit. I think if you look to maybe some within your community, some museums and galleries or just businesses in general, a lot of these have already kind of made that shift to virtual. I know that I've encountered that myself where a local art gallery had a virtual art exhibit that they did about a month and a half ago. And you know, they did it. And so the other organizations were able to just kind of piggyback on that and present that as part of their own program. So there may be something similar to that happening within your community. So I encourage you to talk to your different galleries and museums and see if there's something that they might be able to do with you during Welcoming Week. Another really fun thing to do is some sort of a dance performance or a, you know, interactive dance. You know, we've seen things in the past like Get Up and Dance. It's a good way to get people moving. They're doing it in the privacy of their own home. And, you know, I don't know that I would do it, or at least definitely not want to be on camera. But, you know, if I'm watching someone do it and, you know, just have fun with it, it's a great way to do something like that. The other thing too is a musical performance. So if you have some local artists, musical artists that might want to, you know, do a little bit of a concert, you know, you could line that up again with Zoom. So similar to what you see on the screen, you know, you've got various windows that you can have and they can perform together, or it could just be a single individual. And then also some sort of a cooking demo or a chef-driven kind of discussion where maybe your chef is in their restaurant or in their home. If they have a specific recipe that they want to share, that can be shared in advance with your registrants. And if they want to cook along with that person and, you know, do that together, maybe have a little Q&A of, you know, how they're cooking and how it's going. The other thing too is if it's, you know, a great opportunity to feature some immigrant-owned restaurants or business owners in your community. I know a lot of small businesses are really having it tough right now. So this would be a great way to support them and let them kind of be featured in your event and have your community learn about them. So again, these are just some of the ideas that we have here. I'm going to go quickly to the chat and see what some of you are saying. So let's see here. Oh, outdoor movie where preset parking spots can be used. That's a really great idea there. Let's see. Film screenings again, documentary, immigrant documentary is a great idea there. Community video, so sharing some different things from community members. Virtual concert, as we've seen there. Let's see, what else are we doing here? A lot of concerts, a lot of ideas around that. Someone says that they've done bilingual tours in the past, and this year they're doing those virtually, so that's a great idea there. Virtual music and storytelling event with multicultural folk tales and welcoming songs, so that's a great idea. So yeah, so a lot of good stuff coming in here. Continue to share this. Oh, welcoming walk, I love that. Just saw that one pop in there. Welcome walk at the park. We would love to hear more about that. So keep us updated on that as you plan that. That sounds like a really great idea. So thank you all for sharing that. Keep the sharing going. One of the things that I will do after this webinar today is take all of your information and put another resource document together that I will send as part of the follow-up. So you'll be able to see all these great ideas that everyone is sharing here. All right, so let's move on here. So again, we've talked about in-person events, we've talked about virtual events. What I really want to kind of wind up this section with is, you know, we don't really know what to expect come September. You know, hopefully we, as a world, not just a country, that we're all in a better place, and you know, things are starting to look better. But we just don't know, and so we need to kind of acknowledge that. As an organization, I can share that, you know, we know that many of you have unfortunately experienced things like staff cuts and budget cuts, and it's just been a really tough year so far. So normally for you, those of you that are members, this is something that we would say it's a requirement of your membership that you host a Welcoming Week event. This year, obviously, we don't want to pressure. So, you know, if per like the poll question earlier, if you're at that point where you're like, I just don't know that we can do this, we're just not comfortable with it, that's okay. That's perfectly fine, and we understand that. What you can do is, you know, we're going to share here in a little while some other events that we are going to be hosting. You're going to see ideas from other places that we'll be hosting. So if you can't do one yourself, share those events. You know, do some dedicated email promotions of other events that are happening. Share them through your social media channels. We're going to share our hashtags that we'll be using this year for Welcoming Week. That is perfectly fine. And we would be happy to have you do that. And, you know, if any of those events are virtual, attend those. Be a part of that. Be a part of the discussions and things. That's still you participating. That's still you being a part of Welcoming Week. And again, that is very, very welcome this year. So the big message is no stress. Welcoming Week is not a stress week. We don't want that to be how you all see this. We want this to be a week where you will be able to enjoy and engage and enlighten. And again, you know, however that best fits for you, we are okay with that. And, you know, again, if you've got questions, you still want to move forward, you're still unsure, we are here. We want to work with you on that. So as I said too, we have a couple of other things that we are planning as an organization, and I wanted to share with you. And more will come on each of these specifically as we get closer to them, but some things that we are planning, if you can be a part of, great. And again, share through your channels so we can get a good turnout for these. But to kind of kick off the week, we are going to be hosting a kickoff virtual event. This is going to be an hour long on September the 12th. You see the times on your screen there. It's going to be streamed through Facebook and YouTube. We're going to have various performers. We're going to have some storytellers. We're going to have segments with our members that will be able to participate. If you want to be a part of that, let us know. Enter something in the chat. Send us an email. Reach out to your regional manager. We want to, again, be able to make this our event. This is everyone's event, everyone that is a part of Welcoming Week. So if you're interested in that, let us know. The other thing we're doing is on September the 15th, we are working with Kennesaw State University here in our area. They did an exhibit at our in-person event last year, and it was an exhibit called Refuge or Refuse. And basically it was a physical series of pull-up signs that provide a history of immigration in the US starting back in the 1800s to today. And it was a really big hit. We were hoping to have it at the Interactive this year, which is now happening in April of next year. But this is a great example of, I reached out to them to see if they would consider doing something virtually, and they already had it in play. They'd already established it as a result of COVID. So on the 15th, what we're gonna do is we're going to allow people to have access to the link to the gallery in advance, so people can look at that on their own. And then on the 15th, we're going to have breakout discussions with the museum curators, so we can really kind of do a little bit of a deeper dive into that exhibit there. And then a couple of other things that we're working on. One, a super fun event is going to be a virtual dance party. And then as well as a documentary screening that will allow us to have the director join us at the end and do a Q&A. And those we're still working out some dates and times on. So more to come. But again, if you can share these when you see this communication come through, please do. And again, in a moment, you're going to learn how other events are going to be shown on the web page. You can also share those as much as you can share. We would love to have that happen. So a lot of information I'm throwing at you here. It's fast, it's furious, but one of the things that we're doing a little differently too this year, because again, this is such a different year, is we want to allow you to maybe dive a little deeper if you need to. So next week on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we're going to be hosting office hours, and I will be online on a Zoom call like this for each of those times that are listed there. As part of the follow-up for today, I will send you, include the links to each of those dates and times. Please feel free to register for any of those. You don't have to stay for the full hour. You can come in and, if you've got a question about something you're thinking about in terms of an event, or just want to kind of do some brainstorming, let's chat. Let's come in. Let's do this together. So again, look for that as your follow-up email that'll be sent out to you, and hopefully we'll be able to connect and get you all going. All right, so now I'm going to turn things over to Tim Walden and Lola Pak, who are going to share some information about our website and everything I've been referring to.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tim Walden, Communications Manager for Welcoming America. A lot of you might recognize my name. I've been helping with management of Welcoming Week for the past few years, and things are gonna be pretty much the same, but there are some major differences that I really wanted to help point out and get everything rolling on the same page. So what's staying the same is it's still the same website. Visit welcomingweek.org for all things Welcoming Week. And the biggest difference is, unlike in previous years where we've sent out the host toolkit via PDF or printed them out and mailed them out, this year we are going completely digital because of COVID and because we just want to be more conscientious of the environment. So that's a major difference that I'll get into in another slide. Also this year, participants can now register their events without logging in. So if those of you who have participated in Welcoming Week last year or previous years, you'll remember that in order to upload your Welcoming Week event to our website, you had to essentially establish a profile, log in. None of that's necessary now. You just go to welcomingweek.org, scroll down to register your event, hit submit, and it populates. So it's much easier, but I'll get into that a little bit more later. Where events will be displayed in a searchable list format. So essentially, we really took a lot of time this year to make Welcoming Week easier to access. We want everyone to be able to go to have everything they need at their fingertips. And that's kind of what we structured our new Welcoming Week website to be. You don't really have to do too many clicks to get everything you need. We've got information on getting out the vote in Welcoming Week. We've got information on how to engage on social media. We've got stuff on purchasing Welcoming Week swag. And I did see a comment earlier asking us if we're gonna have Welcoming Week masks, which is a phenomenal idea and definitely something that we're gonna look into. Don't know if we can get it in time for Welcoming Week, but if we can, guess where it's gonna be? That welcomingweek.org website. Anthony, if you could move to the next slide, please. Excellent. So I really want to emphasize this year that the Welcoming Week host toolkit is going to be completely digital. We are not sending out any paper toolkits. Everything you need is going to be at welcomingweek.org. And if there are some of you who are going to the website right now as we're talking about it, once you get there, you'll see you've got a bit of an intro. You scroll down, we've got a nice video for you to kind of get the feel for what Welcoming Week should be, as well as this year's new theme, which Anthony hinted on. And right under that is the Get Involved section. Now, the Get Involved section is pretty much the meat of everything Welcoming Week. At the top there, we've got Welcoming Week host toolkits. And once you click that, everything that used to be on that long host toolkit is now digital. So we've got tips for hosting an in-person and virtual events during a pandemic, tips for developing your event, event examples. Like I said, we've got get out the vote information, how to register your event, purchasing Welcoming Week swag, social media graphics. Now, this is something that's slightly different. In previous years, we essentially waited for everyone to kind of ask us for the graphics, but we wanted to be very proactive this year and kind of give you everything you need before Welcoming Week even starts. So we do have a public G Drive or Google Drive where you can access social media graphics, this lovely Zoom background and others. There's also welcomer signs. A lot of you like the pictures with the welcomer signs. We've got that in English and a number, at least a dozen other languages. And there's also a blank welcomer sign. So if you've got a unique message that you want to get out there for Welcoming Week, we've got blank signs for you. We really try to be very proactive, and that's just on the Event Host Toolkit. It provides a bevy of everything you need, but if you're going through this digital toolkit and you're not finding what you need, or you've got some questions, please feel free to email us at communications@welcomingamerica.org. We're happy to help you out, happy to incorporate something else if you feel it's missing something. We're just happy to talk with you about how to navigate this new site. We really want to make sure that there's everything you need right here at your fingertips. We spent a lot of time making everything digital. Next slide, please. So submitting events. Submitting events is a bit different this time around. The event registration form is going to be on the Welcoming Week page. If you scroll down past that Get Involved section, there's a big section called Register Your Event with Submit an Event and See All Events. So when you're ready to submit your event, you click Submit an Event, and it immediately takes you to our event registration form. I'd like to note here that once you submit your event, it's done, it's permanent. Unlike previous years, you cannot go back and make edits yourself. In order to make edits, you're gonna have to email communications@welcomingamerica.org. So I highly suggest once you filled in everything, give it a second look, make sure there are no typos, add your descriptions. And I know in previous years, what some of our members would do is put in the event with just the title and a quick placeholder description, and they came back later when the event was more filled out and then edit that description. So this year, I would suggest you wait until the event is absolutely ready to go public, fill out that form and hit submit. But if something goes wrong, as sometimes things tend to do when you're going digital, not a problem. Like I said, just email us at communications@welcomingamerica.org, and we will help to make sure your photo, your event description, whatever is taken care of. We've got someone monitoring that inbox, so no need to worry about that. The most important thing about the submitting events this year is we really wanted to make sure that logging in was no longer a barrier. We found that a lot of members and non-members just found having to log in, creating a whole profile just to submit their event was preventative from them actually being able to submit the event. So we wanted to just, like I said, remove barriers, make it easy. Things are already complicated this year, and we wanted to make it as simple as possible. And once you've submitted that event, you can then click on See All Events. Once you hit submit, it will automatically populate into our searchable list of events. So you can search for events in your area via keyword, city, state. If you're curious as to what's going on, just type in Nashville, Tennessee, and you should see a whole bunch of events for that area, and you'll see whether or not your area is hosting events. If you're curious as to whether or not your event is going to be the only one in your area, you can just search that list. Once again, we really wanted to make things easy and digital so that there were no major barriers. Creating home together is important, and we wanted to make sure that home piece was really centered, hence everything going digital. And if you have any questions around submitting events or just Welcoming Week in general, do not feel afraid to email us at communications@welcomingamerica.org. Lola and myself are monitoring that inbox, and we're here to help you out. And even if we can't answer your questions, we will be sure to direct you to someone who can. And I do want to make a quick note on something that I kind of glazed over. with these lovely Zoom backgrounds. And again, there are multiple, not just this one. Zoom backgrounds are a little bit complicated in that you do need a certain level of processing power in order to kind of blot out your background. So you'll notice there's a bit of a chop off with the hair here, and that's just with personal computing power. So if you load up your Zoom background and you're having some issues, you can always reach out to a tech person and make sure you have the proper processing power. So I would recommend everyone, if you want to do the Zoom backgrounds, which are very fun, make sure to test it out before your official Zoom meeting, just so you can see how you're going to appear on screen. It's always important to test out these digital features. Like I said earlier, we wanted to make it easy, but the thing about going digital is there are a few things that can go wrong in the cyberspace. But again, I want to emphasize before moving on, feel free to email us at communications@welcomingamerica.org. We are all fighting through unprecedented times. Do not feel afraid to reach out. We are here for you. Welcoming Week this year is really about creating home together, and everyone's got something going on. So we're here for you. And if there are any questions, feel free to reach out at the end of this webinar or send us a chat on the side. I'm reading them. Thanks, Anthony.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Tim. And I just want to give a shout out to Tim and Lola. They have done a phenomenal job. If you haven't already gone to the website and seen everything, when you do, you know, again, if this is not your first year, you'll see a lot of great changes. It's a lot more user-friendly. Lola is fairly new with us. She started earlier this year, just before all the COVID craziness began. And one of the first things we said was, we need to redo everything for Welcoming Week. And so she just got thrown into the fire. So between she and Tim, they've done a great job. So thank you so much for both of you and all that hard work there. As Tim said, keep your questions coming. Use that chat. We're gonna do our best to get to responding to those. We've got staff members that are kind of keeping an eye on that, so they may respond to you directly there. But again, we'll address that, so many of the questions as we can toward the end there. All right, so now we are going to move on and hear from our members that are joining us today. So our first member that's joining us is Fink, who is from the Idaho Office for Refugees by Jannus, and she's the Outreach and Partnership Manager there. And Kara, I think we're gonna start with your video, correct?
Great, yes, please.
Okay, so everyone bear with me. I'm gonna stop share, start share. It's a little clunky, but we got a great video to show you here. So bear with me for just a moment while we do that. All right, here we go.
Hello everyone, welcome to World Refugee Day. My name is Fuzia Adan. I am from Somalia. I've lived in Kenya before I arrived in Idaho, October of 2012 with my family.
That we are going to share is about our current state that we used to live. It is full of beauty and life, so we missed it. So thank you so much. God bless you all.
Hello, Boise. I'm Mayor Lauren McLean, and I so wish I could be with you in person today celebrating World Refugee Day. For 20 years, we've celebrated World Refugee Day here in Boise, and so today, June 20th, 2020, I am proclaiming to be World Refugee Day in Boise, Idaho.
All right, so I'm gonna go back to our screen here. And Kara, if you wanna take it from there.
Yes, happily to, thank you. All right, so the video you just saw were a couple clips of our larger 1 hour-ish program that we did for World Refugee Day. Next slide, please. And we, like I think lots of you, had some moments as spring was going on of how do you take an event that is in person, that has so much joy and sound and music and food and all of these things, and how and even if you want to put that online. And so we spent quite a while trying to find a way to make sure that it was meaningful and really captured the spirit of the event. And so we decided with about 1 month lead time, so it's really pretty quickly, to try and pull off a virtual World Refugee Day this year. Next slide, please. And so what we did was we made sure that we set our goals right from the start. I think that's obviously event planning 101. We wanted to make sure that we were still providing a way to make sure that we were showing the contributions of folks who arrived as refugees to our community, and provided a platform for people to share. We wanted to incorporate some kind of advocacy, and I think that's something that we are hoping to grow more in the future. We did get some elected officials to attend and help share the event, which is great. Also some who recorded statements of support for World Refugee Day in the video. And I saw a question in the chat earlier about getting engagement from the community for the production of the event, and that was really key in ours. We had an absolute rock star team made up of folks who have been on the World Refugee Day committee before, but also we reached out to some new partners at various universities, at the Islamic Center, lots of different places where we thought there might be people who were passionate about getting this out this year. And we got some phenomenal new team members who were just really excited to take this really short timeline and own parts of it. And I think that was the big thing, was making sure that people had specific parts and it was delegated so that everything got done. And then we also really built on the work that a lot of our partners were doing. We looked around at Welcoming America partners. We went to the webinar from We Are All America, where people were sharing what they're doing. There's a lot of great stuff going on in the community, as we've even seen in the chat here. So we definitely did, we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. So we built on things that our partners were doing. Next slide, please. And so what we ended up coming up with was about 1 hour. Our goal had been 45 minutes to an hour. We ended up with even more people who were really excited to share their stories, and we didn't want to cut those out. So it was a little longer than what we planned on, but we figured as long as it was long enough that people might pop in throughout that hour and 15 minutes and even just listen to a couple minutes, it still had impact. So we polled our community, and Facebook was the way that most people were getting their events or watching their events. So we used Facebook Live, and then we put it on YouTube afterward. That's somewhere where our office hasn't used YouTube much before. So if you go to where the video is on YouTube now, you'll see we don't have, it's brand new. So we're excited to sort of grow that out as more of our things are moving digitally. We also had our performers socially distance when they were performing, as you saw maybe in a couple of those clips, or they sent in pre-recorded performances. And then we pre-recorded the whole thing and then ran it live on Facebook through a third party. We used OneStream, but there's several different ways to do that, so that it was all preloaded, it just played itself. And then we had people moderating the chats and sort of interacting with folks, making sure that there was nothing negative going on there. And then I think the big part, outreach changes, obviously, when we can't use physical interaction and word of mouth, but we made sure that our partners were sharing as much as possible. And we got really great partner shares. I think people were looking for something joyful to share. We also did targeted ads to some communities outside of Boise and Twin Falls, which are the two resettlement cities that usually have World Refugee Day. We saw it as an opportunity to reach some new audiences. And then we also got traditional media, which was great. The hook of switching a 20-year event to online really got a lot of news stations interested. So I think that if you're looking for an angle, could be a way to get some, we had radio shows and television and newspaper ads as well, or newspaper stories as well. And then we also tried, because food is such a huge part of this event and so many, we tried to keep a little bit of that. We uploaded a list of refugee-owned restaurants to the website, and then we did food giveaways on Facebook on our event page. And so we had people comment about why do they love diversity in their city, or why do you celebrate World Refugee Day? And then we had food from those restaurants delivered to them so they could eat it while they were watching the celebration, which was a lot of fun. Next slide, please. And our results, we weren't quite sure, I think like a lot of people, how it was going to turn out in the end, but we got great media coverage, which is always wonderful. As you all know, in this time in particular, any positive news stories are great to have. So we got some great media coverage. We had some interesting Facebook analytics. The event itself reached, which so at least showed up or touched somebody in some way at to 39,000 people, which was really exciting. 6,100 people at least saw the video in their feed on the day of World Refugee Day, and almost 2,000 people watched at least part of it, which we thought for our first ever event like this, we're taking this as a success. We also found that folks from cities out in more rural communities in Idaho tuned in, people in neighboring states tuned in, which was really exciting. So we have a lot of work to do in expanding and increasing our digital footprint, but it was a great start. And we've also done some online storytelling interviews, some interpreted town halls, and we're excited to take what we learned from this and see how we can incorporate it into Welcoming Week. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Kara. Yeah, I would certainly call that a success. That is a huge reach. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. We had fun.
We appreciate that. And when here in just a moment, we're going to, try and do some dedicated questions for Colin and Kara. So if you've got any for either of them, please let us know in the chat there. But with that, we're now going to hear from Colin Triplett. He is the Resettlement Director of Migration and Refugee Services with Catholic Charities of Louisville.
Thank you very much, Anthony. I appreciate it. So I'd like to show a clip of one of the welcome messages that we had for our World Refugee Day, and then we'll go into talking a little bit about how that was brought about.
All right, so bear with me here. I'm gonna do a quick share.
Louisville Mayor Greg Fisher here. As a certified welcoming city, Louisville is really proud of its rich and vibrant diversity. World Refugee Day is celebrated every year on June 20th. But this year, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we'll be celebrating a week-long virtual World Refugee Day starting Monday, June 15th. This year also commemorates the 40th anniversary of the Refugee Act of 1980. Each year on World Refugee Day, we stand in solidarity with our newcomer families as we celebrate the courage, the strength, and the joy refugees have brought to our communities. We're also humbled in remembrance of all that our new neighbors and friends lost when they were forced to leave their homes. That's why I'm happy to partner with organizations like Catholic Charities of Louisville to celebrate World Refugee Day. Our community partners provide our newcomers with help to overcome barriers and create hope through a wide range of programs that empower them to achieve self-sufficiency and have a positive impact on our community, staying dedicated to strengthening our city and keeping our communities more connected. And they play a super important role in driving our economic growth. We know newcomers are 28% more likely to be entrepreneurs than natives and more likely to be active in the labor force, allowing them to contribute to the economy, not only as consumers, but also as taxpayers. We're proud of the talent and commitment to building a better life that our newcomers bring. So I hope you will join me in celebrating World Refugee Day.
All right.
So yeah, thank you. So the next slide. So originally for this plan, what we had done, we were planning on doing.
In 2020 to run.
Sorry about that.
YouTube autoplay there.
Yeah.
So originally what we had planned for this year and what we had done last year, which was you can show the next slide there, was a partnership that we had with Habitat for Humanity, where we engaged with leaders and refugee groups to work together towards a neighborhood revitalization project. It was one of those things that, when you're doing it with your community partners, bridging some different communities, it was such a wonderful thing. And it is kind of, I just want to kind of acknowledge that I know a lot of you all are feeling like it is really tough to pivot from doing something that is in person and then pivoting to something that is virtual. And just like Kara, we had to pivot for next slide, please, Anthony. So we had to pivot from, for our World Refugee Day, from a long-standing in-person event where we had food and performances and community partners and our refugee clients all together to kind of break bread and to get to know one another, and abandoning that and going to a virtual platform was, to be quite honest, demoralizing for a lot of our refugee families and our staff and community partners. However, we did pivot to a virtual event, and what we did is, World Refugee Day is a day on the 20th, but we really tried to capitalize on having it a week-long event where we were posting and sharing a lot of different Facebook videos. That the video that you saw from our mayor was one of them, where we reached out to local leaders. We tried to get diversity in the people that we reached out to, people that came as immigrants, people that are immigrant leaders in the community, as well as leaders in our community, to provide a voice of welcoming for that World Refugee Day. We also approached local immigrant groups to provide to do performances. We approached some local participants in our refugee agriculture program to highlight their food and their farms. So that was something that we were able to really do. And I think that one thing that we really learned is that because we were it was a little bit of a disruption. It was a disruption, but we were able to use that disruption to kind of rethink how we did things. So, it was a standalone event, one-day event, where Catholic Charities of Louisville was kind of the sole leader of that. But when we transitioned to this virtual World Refugee Day, it gave us an opportunity and gave us breathing room to incorporate, to partner with other immigrant service agencies and the other resettlement agency in Louisville. And that was a really positive thing. It broadened the reach that we had, and it also strengthened that partnership. So I think that you can think of this as an opportunity to kind of rethink the way that you do traditional events. Like Carol, we were able to to spin the event, that we're no longer doing it in person, it's virtual. So we're able to have a lot more traction with local media than we had in the past promoting this event. And also we reached a different audience. Most of the people that were attending the events were people that are kind of our general well-wishers, and we were able to promote it further. We used Facebook as the mechanism and YouTube, but I would say when we have those discussions about platforms, really think about equity for your participants. And other platforms or other programming that we do at Catholic Charities, we really think about what are our participants, our refugee clients, most comfortable with, and try to use those methods. WhatsApp has been is very popular among immigrant communities that we serve. So finding a way to share messages and to engage using that platform. And then also, as for us, since we had everything pre-recorded, you can really start thinking about language. It's very difficult to do in-person interpretation with 6 or 7 languages at a physical event to make it equitable. However, doing subtitles, doing overdubs, spending time doing those things, or just doing videos that are just in a particular language that are targeted at a particular group can also be something that can make it a lot more inclusive. So yeah, I think that, the outcome was very good. It was very positive. I think it brought a lot of more people together, especially organizationally. We were able to get organizations that would have not normally interacted with us to be engaged and to submit things. And also that gave us as you saw with the mayor, gave us something to point to get our leadership in the community involved, and for them to kind of really be engaged with World Refugee Day when they make, schedules, when you have one particular day and time, schedules often conflict, but when you have time to lead up, people are more likely to participate. So thank you.
Great, thanks so much, Colin. Appreciate that. Appreciate both you and Kara sharing there. I know we are coming up on the end of our hour, but I also want to make sure that we've got some time for questions. So I want to just share a couple with both of you, just as a follow-up to the sharing that you've done. So, you know, you've made that pivot to be in the virtual event, but a question that we had was, did you do any sort of like a follow-up, or was there any sort of communication around like the individuals that did participate? Anything in that regard that you can share and talk about?
What we ended up doing was everybody who said they were going to our event, or Facebook gives you that little notification. So we invited a lot of people to like our page, and we grew our likes quite a bit on that. So we're hoping that because of that, we'll be able to reach them. We also had some new partners who cross-posted things that we've been in touch with since, but I would love to know if other people have found good ways to get some meaningful, longer connection after it as well.
Excellent. And I know, you know, putting these together, especially when you're pivoting, can happen so quickly. And I know there was a comment about like language access and, you know, just also, you know, the inclusion of individuals that maybe aren't able to communicate. Was there any consideration on that, or do you think that might be something to consider going forward? Just to make sure that everyone is, you know, in terms of equity, is able to access and be a part of any sort of virtual event?
I would say going forward, you know, with our school system, we, you know, a lot of our children are going through a non-traditional instruction, and they have been using a certain platform, been using Google Meet. So I would definitely think about like what people are already doing in their other day-to-day lives and trying to use those platforms as well, instead of kind of forcing something that you may be comfortable with. Trying to reach out to your constituents, as it were, and find out what they are the most comfortable with, and trying to, you know, I don't know, copy or share or emulate or just use that what they are comfortable with. You know, our local school system does not use Zoom, for example. So if we were going to do anything with the Zoom, the children that have those Chromebooks, that they would not be able to access that. So it's just, and the families, you know, that have that and are comfortable with that. So.
Yeah, great point there. Thank you. All right, well, I wish we had time for more, but again, I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Again, it was a lot of information coming at you. An hour went by very quickly, but we are hopeful that we gave you some insight and some inspiration and some ideas to get ready for Welcoming Week. If you've got any questions, 2 ways you can communicate with us. In general, you can send an email over to events@welcomingamerica.org. I monitor that email address, and we'll be happy to respond as quickly as possible. So if you've got a question that you asked today and we weren't able to get to, please feel free to follow up. And then, as Tim mentioned, if you've got any questions related to the website or the toolkit and resources that are available on there, you can reach out to him and Lola at communications@welcomingamerica.org. On behalf of everyone, Colin and Kara, thank you both so much for sharing your time today and putting all of this information together. And also just want to thank all of you for taking the time to join us today and for being a part of Welcoming Week. As Tim said, this is an important event, and it's about creating home together this year, and all of you are part of that. And so we are thrilled to have you join in whatever way you can. And just know that we remain here to help you, and look forward to seeing what will come for Welcoming Week. So thank you all again. We will follow up with an email. You'll get the links to the office hours, as well as a link to the recording, so you can go back and re-listen to all of this if you'd like to. Thanks again for joining. We'll talk soon. Have a great day and stay safe, everyone.